everybody doing every day.
If not
Right.
eating, at least sleeping.
So I think we are good to sleep for 2 days. Saturday, Sunday came anyway.
Yeah, actually, I was expecting at least one of you would say going through my recordings.
I wish I could say that, but not really much gone through in the session. So we
Yeah,
are really at the starting. Uh,
cool. I think,
Yeah, for the recordings, we need more data to get back.
yeah, I understand. This is very initial week, but by the end of next week, you'll have good content to go through, good content to practice as well.
If you give good content today, then we can go through the recording maybe Saturday or Sunday.
Okay. So good, bad, you'll have to tell me because for absolute beginners, yes, it's going to be some learning, but people who are already having some exposure to any programming language, not just Python, but they'll have some waiting time still.
Actually, I have experience in SQL, but I'm trying to learn Python. I have been trying since last 2 years, trying to get Python, trying to get hands-on on Python, but not getting a chance.
Okay. So no worries, guys. Let's get started. Uh, I'm using a different system today, so you might not be able to see the history of what we have discussed or what I have put in the notepad earlier. But yeah, just to recap, we started with all the basic concepts, and then we jumped into, variables and data types. I have explained different types of data types that are supported in Python, except collection data types. We haven't gone through list, set, dict, or tuple. Okay, so I just kept them for one of the modules we have, collections framework, where we'll be deep diving. In fact, we'll be spending an entire week discussing only those four things. Okay. But for today, we'll talk more about variables, because the other day we didn't get a chance to talk about do's and don'ts of a variable and then how we create those variables, and then we'll continue with the other topics. Okay. So,
Uh,
yeah,
Hi, may I know how you got this screen? I checked with Google Colab and I didn't get this black screen or something. Can you show me the path once?
which screen? Which screen you're referring to? May I know who is that?
Uh, Hi, this is Chaitanya. And when we go to Google and say Google Colab, I went to the screen, but I didn't get this screen.
This black screen is a theme. You will get it in white by default.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
got in white color. That's why I was confused whether I'm in a different platform.
No, no, this is a theme. I,
Okay.
I generally prefer dark theme for coding.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Just a moment, guys. So you'll be receiving this notebook, for your practice material, where I have made some notes as well. Okay. So these are a few pointers which we'll have to remember when we are creating a variable in Python. So make sure all the variable names are clear and unambiguous. It has nothing to do technically, but this is a best practice. Okay. So please avoid giving a vague variable name like A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Rather than that, or try to give a proper variable name which makes some sense. Okay. And then preferably use variable names with lowercase. Again, this is a convention, guys. People, I mean, Python won't stop you from using uppercase characters. And for separating variables, use an underscore. Again, it's a developer preference. Either you can use underscore, or you can use uppercase character to separate a word, which I'll be showing shortly. Okay, because any other special characters are not supported. This is an important point. Not the first 2 points, but this is an important point. Only an underscore is supported in special characters. You cannot separate two words in a variable name using a space or any other special character. Okay, and this is another important point. The first character of a variable name must be an alphabet or an underscore. You cannot start a variable name with a number or a special character. It has to be an alphabet or underscore. And all the other characters except the first one may be an alphabet, which can be a lowercase or an uppercase or underscore, or it can be a digit as well. Okay, so the first name, I mean, the first character cannot be a number, but you can add numbers in the variable name. Okay, but not at the first place, first character. And identifier name must not contain any white space or a special character. White space is nothing but your space, and any other special characters are not allowed except underscore. Okay, and then put a variable name, put a space after the variable name and format it properly. So some examples, student name, employee age, product review. These are some good examples. Bad variable names, I, C1, C, and XYZ, or a very big variable name. These are not recommended. Okay. Again, Python won't throw any error if you give bad variable name also, but as a good practice, you'll have to start following these standards right from the beginning. Now let me show you. So for example, I'm creating a variable name is equals to, probably Python. If you are using MacBook, the shortcut to run this cell is Command Enter, guys. Command key plus Enter. Okay. For some reason, I don't like using Mac, but I'm pushed to use Mac today. Now, if you can check the same type of name, it will be string, and let's say I want to create one name. One name is equals to Sachin. It will throw an error, guys, because I'm starting the variable name with 1. But I can add the same one at the end of the variable. Name1 is equals to Sachin. This still works. Okay. And you can start a variable name with underscore. That's the only special character that is allowed. First name is equals to Suresh. This is still accepted. Okay. And when you have two words in a variable name, like first name, last name, or any other use cases, right? So either you can do first underscore name is equals to like this, command enter is accepted, or the second way of doing the same thing is first name. This is also how you can, differentiate your first letters and first word and second word. Okay, so these are the various do's and don'ts. Basically, apart from underscore, any special character you try to give, it won't take. It will throw an error. Okay, and I don't know how many of you follow any Python related meme pages in Instagram. I really like this meme which I have seen in LinkedIn or Instagram. I didn't exactly remember. There are two types of programmers: one who uses underscore and one who uses this one. So in my case, I'm the second one. Okay, maybe in training I keep using both, but when I'm writing code in the real time, I always go with this one, second approach. Okay, again, this is completely your preference, personal choice, right? And then comes, so far we have been
I have a
creating.
question like, does in the real scenario, does they use underscore first name equal to Suresh?
It has a different purpose, Chaitanya. So generally we don't. Whenever we are creating a variables, there is a specific purpose for using those underscores, which I'll be
Okay.
talking about at a later point in time.
Okay.
Okay.
Suresh, sorry to interrupt you. Earlier you said about you showed about identifier. Can you please explain about identifier?
You tell me, what can you guess? What is the difference between identifier and a variable?
I am always getting confused about that.
Okay.
Is the name type more of an identifier? Is the type
Sorry.
is the type more of an identifier?
It's not. Basically, I'll tell you what. So you have some keywords, right? Which you should never be used as a variables, which you should never be using as a variables. Okay. So basically, an identifier is nothing but the name you are giving to a variable. When I say the name you are giving to a variable, it need not be variable in any programming language. It can be a variable name, it can be a function name, it can be a class name, or it can be an object you're creating. Okay, so all these things, whatever the names you are giving by programmer, are considered as identifiers. Make sense? Venu?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, so these identifiers should never be a keyword in any programming language. Okay. Now, moving on. So far we have seen creating one variable at a time, right? Can we create multiple variables and assign values at the same time? Answer is yes. Okay. So for example, I have first name, and then maybe I have last name, and maybe I have location is equals to, let's say first name is Sachin, last name is Tendulkar, and location is, let's say, Mumbai. Something like this. Okay, you can create multiple variables in the same line. You don't need to write three lines of code for creating three different variables. You can check the same. Print first name, print last name, and then print location. There you go. They were properly read. Okay. Now let's say all these three variables have the same value. You want to create three different variables with the same value. Okay. So how can you do that? So you don't have to follow the same process where you create three variables separated by commas on your LHS, and then values on the RHS separated by comma. You don't have to do this. Okay, when you want to create three different variables with the same value, this is how you can do it. Let's say A is equals to B is equals to C is equals to some 10. This should work. Okay, all the three variables A comma B, A, B, and C will take the same value 10. Okay, are we good so far?
Yes. Yes, Suresh.
Okay. Now moving on. The next topic which I wanted to cover today is typecasting.
One quick question.
Yeah, please.
So the similar kind we can apply for the strings as well, like you said A equal to B equal to C equal to 10.
Yes.
Can we do that for string as well?
Yes, yes. You can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Suresh. One more doubt. Naturally, there will be the in the ending you will have the
Semicolon.
semicolon. Yeah, semicolon. Yeah. Naturally, we use that, right? But when I see you code, you're not using anything.
In
Is
Python, we
it-
don't have any semicolons, Bhargav.
Sorry.
In Python, we don't have any semicolons. You
Okay.
don't have. Okay, so next line character. I mean, the moment you press enter, right, that itself would be taken as the end of the line character.
Okay.
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 And also, just because you have brought this up, We also don't have braces in curly braces in Python. Okay,
Okay.
where you define a block of code, we use indentation for the same.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay,
which
got
will
it.
last very soon, probably most probably on Monday itself, because
Okay.
we'll be talking about if block conditional statements on Monday. Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Suresh.
yeah, no worries. So any idea, guys, what exactly a typecasting is?
Converting one data type to another data type.
Yes, converting one data type to another data type. Okay, so why do we have to typecast? Why do we have to convert one data type to another data type? So while creating itself, we can be careful enough to create those variables in the required data type, right? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
We can create it. It's depend on the scenario. Sometimes, if right now, I think here, I am not sure. Like we have objects and everything, different scenarios, and also sometimes not every value like integer is there. There is a limit. If make it to string or something, it can hold more data. Like there are several scenarios where we might need typecasting. Sometimes the inputting may be in string, right?
Mhm.
All the information, but that might be not a string information. It might be integer or any other criteria. So in those scenarios, we might be needing the typecasting.
Perfect.
Maybe any solution comes out a different data type.
Yes, this is also correct. Maybe I'll rephrase that word, but what Bhargav intended to say is correct. So for example, there are some default functions, guys, which you will be using. Okay. So, those functions would return a value in a particular data type. Okay. So you don't have flexibility. If you want to make it work in your own way, you'll have to go write your own code for doing that function. Okay, so in those times you will have to change the data type to your required data type. The best example is input function. Okay, which we'll be talking about shortly. One moment. Okay, so the best example is input function. So input function is for standard input and output device. Standard input output functions. Okay, so under standard input output we have print and we have input. Okay, so basically print is displaying something on your screen, which is the standard output device, and input is to give any input to your code from your standard input device, which is keyboard. Okay, and no matter what value you give, it always reads and returns the value in the form of a string. Let me show you. Okay, so for example, I want to dynamically take input from the keyboard. Let's say I'm creating a variable, name is equals to, I'm using this input function, input. Okay, and probably, you can display something, whatever you want, right? And then I'm printing the value of the same once I have read it, and I'm also printing the type. Okay, okay, sorry, print type of name. Now when I run this, you see, now it is asking you to enter an input from the keyboard. Okay, so you can enter the input, guys, whatever you want. Maybe I'm entering Sachin. Okay, it will read input from the keyboard and created a variable name. Okay, and the name has value Sachin and the type is string. Now let's try to do another example. Maybe age. Okay, now let's say enter your age. Maybe I'm just giving some random number, 32. Okay, you see, though 32 is an integer value, it's still read as a string. Okay, so that's the reason, input is a default function provided by Python. You haven't written any code to read input from the keyboard. You are using the function already provided by Python, and that input function always returns a value in the form of a string. Okay, so no matter what value you are giving from the keyboard, and string is a very powerful data type, guys. It can hold anything. Okay, uh, it can hold characters, it can hold special characters, it can hold, you know, numbers. Since it can hold all of them, anything can be stored in the form of a string. String can store a boolean value, string can store an integer value, a float value, a date value, whatnot. Okay, so most of the times, most of the functions would return data in the form of a string. Okay, so whenever you are using um, that value or the output of those functions, you'll have to convert the values to the respective data types. Okay, so for example, here age is 32. Now you will have to convert it to an integer. You might ask me, why, boss, can't we continue as a string? Definitely not, because if it is a string, you cannot apply any integer functions. So for example, you want to compare dates, sorry, you want to compare age, or maybe you want to do, if this age is greater than 30, you'll not be able to apply greater than operator for a string. Okay, so that is the reason, you will have to do this typecasting, guys. And another example, it's all about how you gonna code and what your use case is. So for example, I have a unique id or the id column. Okay, let's say I'm getting some data from a sensor. Okay, and we have some thousands of such sensors where I'm collecting data from, and let's say the sensor id is looking something like this: 1001. Okay, and then 35, right? And let's say probably uh, then 2024 today 6, and then 21, and then some timestamp attached to it, maybe some 6:30 55 seconds. Okay, so this is how generally we design keys. Okay, where this 1001 is indicating the country code, and then this 35 is indicating the location code, and then this 2024-06-21 is the date, and then this is the time component. I have taken a random example, but we use a 10-digit timestamp. Okay, but I don't want to get there. I'm just showing you, how the timestamp would look like. Okay, now I want to extract the location code, which is 35, or maybe I want to extract the country code, which is 1001, or maybe I want to extract date. Okay, so that is when you will be converting, though this is an integer value, you'll be converting it into a string and extract those values from this string, because um, using string functions for extracting any such value would be easier. Okay, so it all depends on your use case, guys. But what I want to tell you is converting from one data type to another data type is possible. Again, only if it is feasible. Okay, so like I was mentioning, string is a powerful data type which can hold any data type. Okay, now how do you do the typecasting? Let's say I'm creating an age value. Age is equals to maybe 10. Okay, now when I do type of age, it will show you string. Okay, now if I want to convert it into 10, sorry, integer, all I'll have to do is, maybe I'm creating another variable, age int is equals to int of age. This should do the trick. Okay, now if I do type of age int, it will be an integer. There you go. And maybe you want to do the same for float. Okay, let's say I have price is equals to maybe 30.5 USD. Okay, and then I'm doing a type just to show you. The type of price will be float, sorry, string. I have put it in double quotes, right? Now I want to convert that to float. I can give the same variable name as well. Price is if I don't want to store the string format. Float of price and then type of price. Float. Okay. Now, here is the interesting thing. Name is equals to Sachin. Now, can I convert this to an integer?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Correct.
No.
Will not be able to, guys, because see, basically you can convert data type only when you have those compatible values. So definitely Sachin is something which you cannot convert to an integer data type. Okay. Even though you try to do that, it will throw an error. If I do int of name and run this, there you go. Invalid literal for int with base 10, Sachin. Okay, so basically the value that is there in the string is not an integer value. Only when you have an integer value in a string data type, you can, typecast it. Okay, and let me show you one more example. Let's say I have created a variable is promoted is equals to true. Now, can I convert this to a Boolean value?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Answer is no.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
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 1.
Yeah. Okay. So when you are converting it to a Boolean, it will automatically take case. The case doesn't really matter, but you cannot create a Boolean variable with small t. Okay. So if I have to create the same with, directly as a Boolean variable, right? It will throw an error. It has to be an uppercase. There you go. Okay. Are we good so far?
Yes.
Yes. No. Maybe. Okay. Now we'll put all these concepts together and try to do an example, guys. Okay. Our first Python code. Now moving on. Let me explain. How many of you are paying EMIs? Every one of you? Some of you?
I am paying.
Okay. So our first code is our first paying when our salary gets credited. Okay, EMI calculator. So how many of you have calculated this by yourself, guys? I mean, whatever we are implementing now is a basic EMI calculator, though. We will keep on adding, multiple parameters into it while we progress in our topics. Okay. So basically, I'm gonna use simple interest here as per the banks because no bank would charge compound interest on your house loans or any loans you are taking. If they charge compound interest, you will end up paying your entire salary into these EMIs. Okay. Now, simple interest formula. So basically, we need to understand the three components, guys. Principal, your principal amount, okay, and then tenure, and then rate of interest, ROI. ROI is rate of interest, not return on investment. Okay. So basically principal is nothing but the amount which you have borrowed from the bank. And then we have tenure. Tenure is nothing but, how long you want to pay this back. Okay. So for example, you want to pay the entire amount, including your interest in 10 years. Tenure would be 10 years. And then rate of interest, interest rate, how much interest rate you want to pay. You have to pay. It's not you want to, you don't have the choice, but the interest rate on your principal amount. And this is how EMI is calculated, right? Simple interest is calculated, right? Simple interest is equals to PTR divided by 100. PTR divided by 100, where P is principal, T is tenure, R is rate of interest. P into T into R divided by 100, our high school concept. Okay, so the total amount you will be repaying would be the principal you have borrowed plus simple interest calculated. Okay, so the total principal you have borrowed and then simple interest. And here this tenure is in years. Tenure in years. The same is applicable here as well. You know, whenever you are calculating simple interest, the tenure, whatever you are giving, should be in years. It should not be in months or days. Okay. Now the next one would be to calculate number of months, because at the end of the day, I don't know what's happening with these notes here. Why is it reducing the font? Okay, total is equals to principal plus simple interest, and then I'm gonna calculate the number of months. Number of months is nothing but tenure into 12. And once I'm able to calculate number of months, my EMI value would be the total amount I'm gonna pay divided by the number of months. Okay, are we good so far? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, Suresh.
Okay, now let's go ahead and implement the same using Python, where user inputs would be principal, tenure, and then rate of interest. So basically, we are trying to create an application which would take principal, tenure, and rate of interest as an input from the user, and it would calculate and print the total amount he's paying back to the bank, and also how much EMI he'll have to pay every month. Okay, going back to my Chrome. Now principal is equals to I'm going to use input function because I want to take this input from the user, and I'm printing a meaningful message. Enter the principal. Okay. I don't know how it is giving all these suggestions. It was never there earlier. I am seeing this for the first time.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but these are not what we want. Not what we want, but still we can. Let me type it. I don't want to use AI. Okay, principal and then tenure is equals to. But even before we get into the second variable, now let's say I'm entering this. I'm creating this variable principal, and then maybe let me enter some 40 lakh, 400, 4,000, 40,000, 4 lakh, 40 lakh. Okay, and when I do the type of principal, it is showing string. You see? Okay, so if I read tenure and rate of interest also from the user, okay, they'll also be read as a string. Now, can I do a string into string into string for calculating PTR?
No.
Okay, so for the same reason, I'll have to convert this to the respective data type, which is int. And this is how I'm going to do it. Int of input of, enter the principal. Make sense? Principal is always an integer value, right? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna read tenure from the user. Tenure is equals to int, because I need to anyway typecast it. And what am I typecasting? The value returned by the input function, which is input. Input is a function, and then I want to display some meaningful message. Enter the tenure. Okay. And then rate of interest ROI is equals to, a rate of interest will definitely be a float, guys. Okay, so because it's 8.65, 9.7, 8.3, 10.3, okay, it's always a float value. Float of what am I converting to float? The output that is returned by input function. So input, and I'm entering a meaningful message. Enter the rate of interest. Okay. Now that I have created three different variables, I have read the inputs from the user, and finally I have converted them to their respective data types as well. Now my goal is to calculate the EMI that a person is paying to the bank. Okay. So for the same, first things first, I'll have to calculate simple interest. SI is equals to principal into tenure into RY divided by 100. Okay. And then I guess this is taking inputs from the notebooks I have in my drive, because how would it know? The moment I have typed SI, I'm calculating simple interest. I haven't given simple interest, right? I don't know, because I have been training folks in Python from past, 4.5 years, and you will see a lot of this playground notebooks in my drive.
Machine
Right?
learning, maybe it's learning.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. So if you see
Yeah.
playground, see a lot of playgrounds. These are all the playgrounds I have taken from multiple batches. Okay. And whatever the variable name I'm giving, it is, intuitively guessing. I'm really liking this, but this is not a good sign for learning when we are in a learning stage.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, simple interest is equals to principal into tenure into rate of interest divided by 100. Right? And then we'll have to calculate total. Let's see if it guesses. There you go. And it is also giving print statement as a suggestion.
We have Gemini enabled. We might need to disable the Gemini so that it won't be giving the instructions.
No, it's not enabled. It's an option they're putting there.
Yeah. So let me see if I can disable it.
We have three dots there in Gemini. When you click on Gemini,
I
right? Like
did.
not here, right? This
Here,
side.
right?
Yeah.
Move tab to next pane, close all.
No, that's I don't know what things.
Yeah, it's just for if you want to use Gemini, then you can use it. But I
Yeah.
think it is getting it from your previous sessions.
Previous or some tools.
Yeah. I have taken my latest batch of Python was completed a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see this in my previous batch.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some suggestions, but they were not this accurate. Okay. So principal plus SI. Okay, there you go. You see, it is giving the print statements that this is what I'm gonna write exactly next. Okay, that's fine. Now, number of months is equals to tenure into 12. Okay, and then I'm gonna calculate EMI, guess. EMI is equals to total divided by num months. Who
So
told you I'm gonna do this? Total divided by num months. I think we'll have to move to some other tool.
now we have like settings. You go to settings in there, hide AI features options there. I maybe settings button click on. I can able to open settings and able to do that hide one. Yeah, AI assistance.
Yes.
Yeah. You can remove that one. Hide AI generative features. Yeah, that should do that. Yeah.
Thanks, man. You're my savior. Because at least whenever I'm typing something, I don't want somebody else to type faster than me. Okay. So total divided. Oh, it's still coming. Okay.
Nothing we can do.
Let me
Maybe restart or refresh.
let me do that. Let me restart my uh, backend. Okay, EMI is equals to total divided by number of months. Now I'm gonna print the total amount that is repayable to the bank, and then EMI. Print total amount repayable. Okay. And now after printing this, I want to print a dynamic value from a variable. For the same, I'm gonna use f string. Okay. So what I'm gonna show you now, just remember it guys, but we will deep dive into what's happening internally when we discuss strings. So this is for string formatting. Whenever you want to format a string, you use this. Okay, you just give f stands for format and then total amount repayable. Okay, and here I want to show a variable, so the value from a variable, and I can do this by using a curly braces, and inside this curly braces you can specify the total value. Okay, so what happens is this will print the text as is, total amount repayable, and then whatever the variable you want to print, right, the value from a variable, you just give it in curly braces. That should work. Now print again here as well. I'm gonna print EMI, for which I'm gonna give f string. Okay, now EMI payable every month. Okay, so here I'm taking the EMI value. Okay, let me run this. Now you can give your inputs. Let me start with my loan first. 4,500, 45,000, 4,50,000, 45 lakh. And then my tenure is 20 years. And the current rate of interest of my loan is 8.75. Now you see, for 45 lakh, I'm paying back to bank 1 crore 23 lakh 75,000. And this is the EMI what I'm paying to the bank. This is almost same. I'll not say exactly same, but almost close to what I'm paying. Okay. Are we good so far? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, yes, Suresh. Very good. Yeah.
Suresh, one question here. What was the reason you explained about having that F prior to the
F
quotation?
string, yes, please. Sorry.
What was the reason you mentioned using the F string?
So here, this total value you're seeing, right? So this is not a hard-coded string. So this total amount repayable is a hard-coded string. You know, whatever you give, it will print it. But this total, I don't want to print it as total. I want to print the actual value holded by this total variable, correct?
True.
Okay. For the same, I'm using this f string. So what this f string will do is this format, whatever you write in this curly braces, it will go look for that variable. Okay, if that variable is there, it will pick value from that variable. If that variable is not defined, it will throw an error saying that this variable is not defined.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Thanks, Suresh.
Okay,
Thanks.
no problem.
Hello, Suresh. I have one question.
Mhm.
In terms of like, you mentioned it is case sensitive. So where
Yes,
should be like we should be more careful in terms of like using capital letters?
I would recommend you not to use caps at all until and unless you have two words in a variable name. So generally, I won't even say barely. I would never use a uppercase character. Okay. So I use uppercase character only when it is demanded by Python. If I have to use it, if it is a mandate because of the function name or because of the construct, say for example, you take Boolean value. Okay. So that is where it is mandated. You have to use it. Okay. So only in those places I'll be using uppercase. Otherwise, I'll never get into uppercase scenarios. And when I have multiple words in my variable, that is when I'll be using uppercase again. Okay, so these are the only two scenarios where I generally use uppercase. Otherwise, I would avoid using uppercase. Again, if you are comfortable with using uppercases, you can definitely do it.
Okay, this makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
I
And-
have a question, Suresh. So we typecasted the principal into int in the when we declare that, right? So why is it the type still giving string?
Where is
Am I
it?
missing? You
No,
said type principal.
this
It's
I
treating the
have.
type as a
Done
string, right? Am I
which-
missing something?
yes, you are. You missed some part of the session.
Oh, okay. Got
This is
it. Yeah.
because this is something which I ran before using int.
Okay.
Type.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. My mistake.
No problem. That's okay.
It's before using the int statement that a thing was actually run by the code.
It didn't run by the code. I ran it manually.
No. The trainer has ran the code before using the int
You're
statement.
telling to her, okay. Got it.
So Suresh, one question.
Yeah, Ravi.
So here you're saying, I mean, the line, principal equal to int, and then you're using the input function. Similar to C language, can you do that int principal and then just use the input function on the right hand side? Is that possible?
That doesn't work, right? So I understood your concern basically. So you are saying to declare, you're asking me to declare variable first and then initialize the value, correct?
I mean, yeah, because okay, maybe this might not be a good idea. If you scroll up where you were initially explaining how to, how to typecast.
So basically what you are trying to say is create a variable int a and then, assign a variable, assign a value a is equals to some value. Then something like this, correct?
Yeah, so similar to this, but in a single step. Like in Python, you do a equal to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not possible, right? In Python.
That's not possible.
It's not possible syntactically. It's a typed programming language. Firstly, you cannot give a data type to a variable. It is dynamically typed.
Oh, so you are forced to, okay, so you have to do a equal to 10 and then say a equal to int a.
No, not like that, right? So a equals to 10 itself is an integer. When a is read as a string, that is when we do the typecasting. So when you do a equals to 10, a itself is an integer. You don't have to typecast it again.
But let's say, okay, in a scenario where, for example, you're trying to list out a names of softwares with revisions, with their release versions. Maybe that might be a better word. So release versions are usually numbers.
Yes.
So then if you're trying to combine that, then you'd have to convert this
into a string and then
towards
the whatever the pre-string you have.
Right.
Name of the project.
Yeah. So in that case, now can I say string a equal to 10?
You can't.
If I think so.
You can't. Now it's going to be str of 10 because you're typecasting an integer value to a string.
Oh, okay. So
either you do this or it has to be a is equals to 10 while creating the variable itself.
Okay.
I would recommend the second one though. Directly create your variable itself as a string rather than why you have to add one more step of converting that to a string.
No, eventually I would reach there, but I was trying to understand this. Okay, where
I understand, especially for the people coming from a different programming background. These are the few things which would confuse you initially.
Right.
That's
so,
fine.
But I get it now. Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, when you're giving the name of the variable, yeah, you don't try to assign it to it. But when you don't assign it like a data type. But for the variable, when you're adding, when you're assigning it a value, then you can say that, okay, that value is of this particular data type. Okay, that makes sense.
Even I felt frustrated, because one advantage of creating a variable and assigning a value separately is, let's say you want to implement a counter. Okay, you can just create a counter variable without any value assigned to it, and then probably use that counter at a later point in time. But here, right, whenever you want to create a variable, you cannot do that. You have to assign some value to it. If it is an integer, default value 0. If it is a string, like an empty string, okay. So at times even I thought ki, okay, see why I have to do this, but that is how it is, Ravi.
So, basically, Suresh, you are telling me there is no concept like global variable. I can create a variable and assign somewhere or initialize
There is a
somewhere
concept
else.
of variable, Kumar. You can have global variables and local variables. Say, for example, you are creating a variable inside a function or inside a block. You cannot
Okay.
access that variable outside.
But so I want to initialize and have the value, right? That
Yes, you have
as
to
my
initialize.
understanding is like whenever I create a global variable, I have to assign the value there itself. Like
Yes,
without doing that, I can't really use any global variable.
No, I mean, when you're assigning a variable, some default value has to be assigned, and
yes.
then when you're using that global variable somewhere, then
You
you
can
can
check.
assign the value.
Yes,
But when you're initializing it, when you're saying, okay, I have this global
So
variable which will be used in the main function outside of sub functions, then uh, you have like just give a blank value. I mean, like Suresh was mentioning, and give it a blank string or a zero, assign a value 0 to it.
yeah. Just a
like
matter of time. Probably, next week, once we cover, conditional statements, loops, and control statements, you will have better understanding, what I'm talking about, and, what these things would do when they are declared global and local. Okay, again, global and local, we don't have any such keywords here. It depends on where you create those variables.
yeah, I
Uh,
got it. So initialization is mandatory wherever we
yes,
create it. We have to
initialization is
have.
mandatory.
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
That's the moral of the story. Okay. Cool. We'll stop here for today, guys. I have one more topic before we jump into conditions, which is operators. Okay. So Monday, I'm gonna start with operators. I'll talk about operators, and then we'll move into conditional statements. So if you get some time, just brush up on operators, right? And then we'll talk about that in our next session. We only have 3 minutes left. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer, else I'll give you back your 3 minutes.
Uh, how can we add the late payment to the above code?
Sorry?
How can we add late payment? Suppose if the person didn't pay the payment and add the late payment.
So here it is just a EMI calculator, right, Chaitanya? It is not calculating or it is not tracking anything. So that's
Okay.
altogether different story. You are talking about a bigger application. Okay,
Okay.
depends on all the rules. I mean, uh, definitely we'll not get into that level in our course, but we'll be doing more advanced concepts in this EMI calculator itself. So, for example, once we are completed with conditional statements, I'm gonna include Sybil component. Okay, so you can assume this as some Paisa Bazaar website or any other website which doesn't track your payments, but based on your inputs, it will give you some insights, how much you'll end up
Okay.
paying, or what could be the approximate amount you you might get as a loan. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, dealing with late payment and others, it depends on how
So
your
it's
bank
okay.
does it internally.
Got it.
Uh,
It's linked to the other payment tracking system, I think.
no, it's not. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the first few examples, like when we did it, like we did not introduce like int the data type, right? Like here for age, you did not introduce like it's the integer,
Mhm.
but for the last like the first program we used a int float
We
and
did right. This is where I did it. So though I have read this as a string, I
Mhm.
have converted it to an integer again.
Okay, so always we
Okay.
have to specify the data type when we introduce like
Always, not always. I would recommend you to go through the session. It has the
okay.
answer. Maybe you missed that part, but yes, we discussed on this.
Okay, I will go through them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Cool. Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend. Happy weekend and happy learning. See you on Monday.
Thank you.
You also have a good weekend, Suresh. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Have a good week.
Hopefully,
Have a good day.
my weekend is full of sleep. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
You have a healthy sleep then.
Thank you. Thank you all.